Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my Untold Moon Facts. I have the last almost 3 years studied the moon very intensely after I found out there was something called the moon's irregular behavior. Because the moon is also called the traveler because it's the only celestial body who behaves very strange, according to the stars and the sun. They are much more stable and doing things in a more orderly fashion, if you want to. The moon it has a fast lane and it's going fast from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn every 13.5 days. I have in the last 3 years by the two telescopes by pointer compass, I have used the program Starlore very intensely to see where the moon arrived in this program. Did it match with what I see in everyday life? And that's why it has taken me so long time to complete this works, because you have cloud covers and so on, so it's not always easy to see the moon, and some days you cannot see it at all, of course, and we all know that. So yes, it's with great joy I present this Untold Moon Facts. I have here a few of my own photographs, not in the best quality of the moon. I have not the best camera, but I'm trying. I made a few animations to go along with these explanation and some maps and graphics, and I hope these will enlighten you and help you to understand what the moon actually does. And it's not what they're telling us, of course. It's we all know that as flat earthers, they're not telling us the truth. Well, here we're coming up. We see the first map I made to try to explain to you how everything looks. And you see you have the North Star in the middle, and the Tropic of Cancer and equator line, and the Tropic of Capricorn depicted here. The blue top is what I think the firmament, or aka the dome, is not so high as in others maps. And then one fun thing more is the moon is just as much out in daytime as it is in the nighttime. So you can't say the moon rules the night; it rules the days just as much. Here we have a star map from Stellarium. You will watch that later in the full calendar year, where you see the moon going in and out. And this is an explanation of what you're seeing. This map will be shown again. And here I should show the flat Earth map next to this star map, if you want to. And you can see the North Star. It's located in the center of the star map and also on the flat Earth map. So these two match if you put them on top of each other. There's no doubt about that. Well, let's take to the beginning. Every 14.5 days, the moon going from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. When it's at the Tropic of Cancer, it's lower in the sky, and it's higher up when it's at the Capricorn. I estimate as around 22% higher altitude and speed. And what will that look like? If you look out from your kitchen window, you will see the moon going from what you will call the winter solstice to the summer solstice every 13.5 days. I know I have written 14 days here, but it's an old animation. Yeah, we will live with that little error. Yeah. And here you see the moon setting is in summer, because the full moon is at Capricorn. And here you see what I'm referring to according to the solstice, where the moon moves forward and back every 13.5 days. And this is like a dynamic clockwork. This is going on for all our known time. There's no pauses is in it, and it is very simple. You can open the program Stellarium after you have viewed the video and learn more about our world. Here we have a little picture where you see it's going inwards. Not so much down as I would have shown, but nevertheless, just to try to explain what's happening. So, and you can also take a thing as the phrase a supermoon. The supermoon is just because it's near the Tropic of Cancer and lower in the sky, and therefore it will appear bigger. Then we have another very interesting thing. The moon has some month markings. Each month there's 2 days in a row where the moon have the same arrival and exit time. This is a marking of a month, and it's often, it always is located near a full moon. Sometimes in front with the date, and sometimes behind the full moon. But it's also a calendar given to us. On the moon marking days, what the moon actually does is taking 2 turns in the same circle. And this will give you a total of around 27 days from the waxing phase to the waning phase. And then we have the moon seasons. The moon has this winter and summer settings, and as you can see here, I label April the 1st as our New Year's Day. And then we have 4 pure summer months and 2 changing months with the fall, and then you have 4 winter months and a changing season again. And in these changing seasons, we have this wild weather, the fall, and then these times of year it's very windy and so on. And this is simply because. The moon changes its phases where it gets its energies from, and it's swapping from the inner circle to the outer circle, and this generates a lot of energies in many ways. And you also, in this period of the changing months, you have more sun flares, you have more northern and southern lights activities. So this is the first part of it, and it will be now divided into parts where you have the moon daylight paradox, and we will take a look at the full calendar year, what the moon actually does, how it moves from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. I hope you enjoy. The traveler, or the moon as we call it, has a way to show us each month that a month has passed. It actually takes 2 turns in the same circle around our flat plane, and those 2 days it has the same rise and setting times. This is a very clear indication, of course, that we cannot spin around in a heliocentric model. This will, of course, be totally impossible to achieve for the moon or in any models they can put up with the globe. So in this perspective, this is also we could call it a proof or a fact that the Earth is not moving. That it is the moon and sun and all the stars that revolves around our heads. That's very, very simple to see with this, and you can see it's very funny because these markings of the months, they are always close to the full moon, and there's also kind of a pattern in them, how they are on the front side and back side of the full moon event. But of course, this will I will elaborate on this in a coming edition of my moon works. But in the first hand, I will publish these findings which make the heliocentric model totally impossible. And this is, of course, one of them. This can't be achieved in a heliocentric model. That's for sure. Next thing we are going to look at is another very funny thing. I will call the moon daylight paradox, because every single day we see the moon arrive again and again, and it arrives at different times and it's coming later and later every day. but the length of the day also varies. As you can see here, we begin with 14 to 13 hours. Now we have in moon daylight length, and it's rising because in this time it's close to where I'm living, and that therefore it's visible a longer time in the sky. That's a very simple fact, and of course these numbers, they are only valid for Denmark and the South Zealand part of Denmark, so you cannot compare this to where you're living, of course, unless you're living close to where I'm living. But if you take a program like Stellarium or other star programs, you will be able to see what the rise and set times are for your local time, and they will of course variate, because as you see it circles in and out, then of course is varying if you're living in the South America part compared to my arrival and exit times. That of course is very simple to see. But this moon day-length paradox, again, if you look at the heliocentric model where it spins around in all directions and so on, and this is not possible. And as you can also hear, I'm telling it's jumping from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn every 14 days. And this is what varies the moon day length, of course, because sometimes it's closer to my area, or sometimes it's farther away. And when it's farther away, it's like when the sun is in the winter setting here in Denmark where I live, then we have very short days, and it's the same when the moon is out there. It's a short moon day length. So here we are copying up and also the season change with the moon, as I also mentioned. Sometimes in April, which is, if you have seen that video of mine, which is the real date for New Year's, because that's where the seasons actually change, and not in the midst of the darkness in December. But that's because they are sun worshippers, and that's another story, because my next main work will probably be around the sun, because there's some anomalies there we also need to highlight. Also something not so good for us, but everything should be out in the light, of course. But I'm working on the sun project as my next one. But the moon day paradox here, you can see very clearly how its arrival times changing. And if you see Earth spinning around its own axis every 24 hours, how will you explain this? In their model, it's jumping a little up and down every 14 days out in space, but that's not what it's doing. It's circling in and out, in and out, in and out. So, and furthermore, it would not even give a longer or shorter days, because what will that do? It will jump up and down outside. So this is a clear proof for we have a stationary fixed Earth, and the moon is rolling around us. Here in March, we can also observe the waxing phase of the moon. It's getting longer in the day length, but it will not get so long as normally when it's full, because normally, when I say the winter setting, I mean, of course, the winter setting, because from my perspective in December, the full moon normally is a very long day length, but here it will be a shorter one, because the full moon is moving towards the equator line, and hence show us a season change in that way. So it's a bit complicated with March and April. These changing months, that's also why we have this unpredictable weather. We call it the fall and the autumn, of course. So. And it's a funny thing with the fall. I said it before, that the moon falls back to the Tropic of Cancer, and it springs down upwards to the Tropic of Capricorn. Here we see the full moon, the 12th March, is only 13 and a half hours long, which normally in December, if you're going back and watch these, they will be more like 16 hours because it's very close to where I'm living. So the whole moon day-length paradox, of course, generates a lot of problem for the globe. that's for sure. And the moon month markings also, it is impossible, as I see it, to make a working model with the globe and doing this. So, but I think it's very interesting, as you can see, how its arrival time and exit times are very consistent to where the moon's location actually is. Is it further away from us? Is it closer to where you're living? And also, I will estimate, as I said before, that when it's traveling around in the Tropic of Capricorn, it's higher up and it's traveling a bit faster, maybe up to 22%. But of course, I have no airplane or anything way to measure this. This is not possible for what I have in a text available to me at this stage in my life. But maybe later, who knows? Maybe somebody would provide me with tools to investigate more. I'm certainly open for more investigation of the moon. That's for sure. There's a lot more happening to it. Here we have the closing phase of Mars, and it's waxing again. And now it's the full moon will be located in the first quarter next to from the equator next to Capricorn. Sorry, it's not always easy when you're Danish and have to translate everything before I'm saying it. So sorry. Well, but that's how it is. And now here we also have in April, the 1st April, which is the New Year's. There's also clear indication in the sky for the New Year's, but I will publish that in another time because that's not for now to discuss what's here. Then I had to bring up new animations and so on. So I'll do that another time. But what's actually it's shown for us how we can see in the sky it's New Year, because it's actually so it's a calendar. We can look up and say, okay, it's that's how it is. Also, one thing I can say about the moon phases, depending on is in the winter setting or summer setting and where you're living, again, that's a matter of perspective. But when it's like it's waning, for instance, let's say it's waning or waxing south, if you could say so. Let's stick to the waxing. Sorry. When it's waxing, it's sometimes it's in one season it's slightly more to the south. It's gaining, and in the winter settings it will then be reversed. Summer and winter, if it grows the one way from where you are seeing it, then you could be certain, and in the other season settings, it will be waxing the other way around. So it's like left, right. You can see if it is what season you are in. And again, that's a matter of perspective, because some see it from another angle, so they see it upside down, so to speak, seen from my perspective. And you will say, oh, he sees the moon in another angle. But that's how it is when it's like when you have the famous example with you can draw an M on a lamp, and then you can take a big room, put the lamp in the ceiling, and you can observe the lamp for 4 different angles, and then the M, of course, will be upside down depending on where you're standing in the room. That's just a matter of perspective. It's a very simple thing, and not very hard to understand, actually. So I will here with the moon daily paradox. There's much to study for everyone. You can take these, going through these numbers again and see how the arrival times move and the waxing phase is going up and down, and you can see the pattern in if it's going away from my perspective, the days get shorter, and if it's going towards me, they of course getting longer. But that's seen from a Danish perspective, of course, these numbers here, as I mentioned before, so don't take them as numbers for your own place where you live. Of course, unless you live close to me. There's nothing more further to add about these moon daylight paradox and the moon months marking, which where it's take two turns in the same circle, more or less. I cannot say 100% that's what it's doing, but it's looked like that in Stellarium because it's traveled these green lines. The moon and its day-length paradox makes it impossible that the moon can be a cause and effect for the tides, because if you look at timetables for tides, they will not match what the moon actually does in any way, shape, or form. So the cause of the tides is something else, and worth a big study, of course, also. I suspect it's something to do with the mountain in the middle and the water pump up there in the Nordic Sea. They call it the Saltvands pump, which is actually some kind of dielectric magnetic energies who's dragging the water in my. That's a theory, of course. This is not in the fact section. But what is a fact is for sure that the moon cannot be the cause and effect of the tides because how it behaves and the day-length paradox. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Here we have the moon in its winter settings, and it's January 2017. As you can see, the moon is moving from the Tropic of Capricorn and moving towards the center point, the Tropic of Cancer. As I point out here, you can see where equator is and the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, of course. And if you compare this with a flat Earth map, it will make perfect sense how it circles around the center point. As you can see, the North Star is located in the center of this rotating star map. As you can clearly see, it's gaining towards the center point here now in the animation, and it's also waxing phase, of course. It's now up on 70% and getting closer and closer to the Tropic of Cancer. As I'm saying, it's moved every 14 days from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. And this is going on and on and on. And it's like it's moving from the summer solstice to the winter solstice every 14 days. And of course, as I said, it has a winter setting and a summer setting. And in the winter setting, the full moon is always near the center point, and it's also lower in the up in the sky. So that's why they call it a supermoon. It's actually just because it's lower, so it appears, of course, bigger. Because when it's circling out towards the Tropic of Cancer, it's gaining in height and speed, and I estimate around 22% it's gaining in height and speed. But of course, I have not the possibilities to measure these things. I can only use tools like Stellarium and use my abilities to think critical and see what I observe. And what I observe here is very clear. And you can also see this signs with the half moon when it's at equator, and also it's a part of the system of signs and seasons from the creator. You could see at the equator it was half moon, and this system is moving a bit towards away from the equator every time it's a new half moon. So if we have, it's because we live in the cities and we have all this light pollution, so we cannot see all these things probably. But if you are able to, then you can clearly see, oh, now the moon is coming at 90 degrees equator, and that's a clear sign for now it's here in the seasons. And I will elaborate on this system later and make a full calendar on what to see on signs and seasons. But for now, we are focusing on the moon and the moon, how it's behaved, and it's here in its winter setting. You can see the new moon is now circling around the Tropic of Cancer. And as it's gaining, it will continue to go back inside the center point. It's now almost, you can see almost half moon. Half moon. New moon, of course. sorry. I hope you can see it. It's the black dot with the little cross markings. That's the moon, of course. I should have told that from the beginning, but I hope that makes sense. The very bright point circling around, it's the sun, of course. And then you see a lot of the stars. They have different names here because it's Arabic folklore, because I find it a bit funny. They call the moon the traveler because it has this irregular behavior, you can say, because if you see that how it jumps every 14 days from the side to the center point. Here we have the month of February 2017, seen from the Native American Dakota's star folklore viewpoint. It's kind of interesting how they also knew a lot of about the stars, as you can clearly see here. They have names for them and star signs of their very own. Here you can also see the interesting the half moon at the midpoint between the Tropic of Cancer and equator. Again, it's a sign for a clear sign for the season change the moon has is now going toward the summer settings here in February. The March and April. March is more and April is more changing months, but that we will look on as the year go by here. It's kind of cute to watch, actually. Poetic dance around the center point of our flat Earth. How big it is, I don't know. That's another story. That's not what I'm talking about here. The size of the maps or what could be possible. All I can say is that the moon and the sun and the stars, they clearly rolls around the center point. Now here you can see the full moon is now not so close to the center anymore. It's moved a bit out towards the circle of Capricorn, and it's more little over the midpoint between the Tropic of Cancer and equator. Again, that's a sign for us to see in the sky that the seasons are changing. There's no doubt about that. It's just a dance, poetic dance. The moon has always been studied for its irregular behavior. It has never been solved. Actually, it was the debate was on its height when the telescope was invented, and then everybody forgot this because this amazing tool with two glass prisms who focused the light to be round. Surprise! Well. Scientism is a funny thing, that's for sure. And here we see the half moon near the Tropic of Capricorn. And again, we have a clear indication for a season and date change. We can watch in the sky. We don't even need a clock. And also, when you refer to a clock, that's a funny thing. A clock going the other way around. As you notice, our sun and moon is going counterclockwise. And of course, these Masonic deceivers and Jesuits and what they will call them, I don't care. They have then created this round globus, and of course the watch is going the other way around because they have turned everything upside down. So that's a funny little marking. They love to mock. That's what they do best. Well, they can try to talk their way out of this if they can. And here we have the half moon at a point almost midways between Tropic of Cancer and Equator. And again, a sign for the season changes. Of course, the new moon is almost impossible to see, but it's nevertheless still located there and is a sign for this. Thank you. Here we will take a look at the Inuit folk Starlore. As you can see, they have not so many star signs. They have actually only a few around the center point. But of course, these Inuit people are also located very north, very close to the center point. The month of March is also one of the months where it begins to drift away the full moon from the center point and show us another location for the full moon settings. Here you can see it's near the Tropic of Cancer, and a funny little thing is the name first quarter is more like it's a quarter away from the Tropic of Cancer towards equator. So it's also a kind of marking of, they know what's happening. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And also, one thing it's worth noting that in this period where the moon is going from the winter settings towards its summer settings, actually there's a lot of there's more northern light and southern light, and there's also more sun flares because of course it's everything is dielectric magnetic and it's connected. So when it's changing phases, it generates these sparks around and more light and so on. And here you see the full moon now has moved near the equator, and this is a clear sign. And now it has moved away from the Tropic of Cancer, where we have it in the winter, to now show us that the summer is coming and spring is coming and a new year is about to begin. As I published earlier, the 1st April is what I consider for a more real date for a new year, because that's where the seasons begins. But of course they want to have the season begins in the middle of the winter because they like to turn everything upside down. So now we are getting near the next half moon, and you can observe it has moved away again. And here we have the half moon near the Tropic of Capricorn, and again the name third quarter this time means it's third quarters away from the equator line. So again, they know everything about what's happening. That's There's no doubt in my mind, and also you can see a program that like Stellarium, it's a smoking gun for it. It's actually like that, so there's no doubt here in my mind. And now you can see the next new moon is also coming up at the equator line. And again, a clear sign for us to observe that the season is about to change. It is like a poetic dance. It's a perfect calendar. It's actually fantastic to watch and to realize what it actually is, actually compared to what they have told us it is. I hope you understand these animations, and feel free to ask if something is on your mind in a polite manners, of course. Globers, don't even bother. Ask. Stick to your religion. I'm not putting my religion inside yours. Here we will take a look at the Ojibwe Starlore in April 2017. As you can see, they also clearly have a very, very good knowledge of the stars and have interesting star signs of their own, not compared to the Western star signs, of course. So, one more interesting thing is also you can call March and April spring months. And why is it they call spring? Oh, sorry, 2 seconds. Here we have the half moon at the first quarter at the Tropic of Cancer, and then also the new year begins in these days. But back to the topic, spring. Why is it called spring? Well, because the moon actually jumps up and out towards the Tropic of Capricorn. It gains high speed and altitude. Yeah, that's almost the same, but I hope you get what I mean. And when it's falling back towards the center and down. So that's a little funny thing to think about what they call spring and fall. And here we are coming up to a full moon, which is located around the equator zone, first quarter equator zone towards the Tropic of Capricorn. Because now you can clearly see the moon's location for its full moon has shifted from the center point toward the edge area, Tropic of Capricorn. So right now it's dancing out in the spring months, if you could say so, and when you then come back to months like May, June, and July, they are pure summer months, and there you have the full moon in this full summer settings, which means it's the full moon is near the location of Capricorn, the Tropic of Capricorn. And now we have the next half moon coming up. As you can see, I will repeat myself and call it the poetic dance, of course. But it is lovely. Here we have the half moon at the third quarter zone away from equator. And I will say the moon is a great calendar for seasons and days. Also, the stars also give some signs, and I will elaborate on that and make a full calendar on what's to watch in the sky for seasons and days, and actually make a kind of you can call it a calendar or something like that. And here we have a new moon at the 2/4 zone away from the equator, and it is now almost in its summer settings. Here we will take a look at the Arabic Starlore once again in May 2017. I picked the Arabic Starlore because it's very interesting, because many of the stars have very interesting names, and it's a whole study worth itself because it has meanings about what they're doing. But now here the half moon at the 2nd quarter away from the Tropic of Cancer. It's labeled as a 1st quarter moon, but actually it's 50.2% illuminated, because they don't put out all information, so you just can puzzle them together, and then you have the full picture. So it's of course my speculation, and I of course said before there was a location relation, but sometimes they kind of hide it so it don't get too obviously. That's how I see it. So I will label it as a 2nd quarter moon, as I think I said before. But again, we can clearly now see the moon has another place for its full moon location. It's moved towards the Tropic of Capricorn, and now we have the full moon at the 3rd quarter zone between the equator and the Tropic of Capricorn. So I will say here in May we now have the moon in summer settings. There's also some interesting things worth mentioning. All the full moon locations, they are actually unique. So it's again a clear sign for seasons and dates. So we can see where the full moon is located, and then we know, oh, we are in this month, and so on. But you can actually use a pointer compass and then see where the full moon is, and then you can have a clear picture of where you are in the calendar. Now we are moving towards next half moon, and this we have in the midway point between equator and the Tropic of Capricorn. One more funny thing to add to this with the names Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn is a Capricorn springs high, like the moon is springing high when it's up there. Out there, if you could say so, and it's going low. Cancer, like the water creature living in the water, is going low. So it's again hidden in plain sight, which is often this. So, but you have to do the puzzles bits yourselves, of course. I hope you understand all this. Here we have a new moon coming up, and you can see now the new moon is located very near the center point again. It's in the 3rd quarter zone away from equator towards the Tropic of Cancer. So again, a clear sign of the moon is now in its summer settings. And the weather will turn more stable now, because in the spring and fall months, the 4 months where this happens, it's gaining and waning and waxing. It's sometimes faster, and it is in areas where we are not used to having these what do you call it? The moon influences the weather because it has, of course, it generates cold air, but it also has dielectric magnetic properties which affect the water. Here we will take a look at the Aztec Starlore. Here we also first have coming up the half moon, which is in the first quarter zone counted away from the equator. Again, we have clear signs for seasons and dates and unique positions for both the full moon and the half moon. It's very obviously if you look at out in your horizon, now you of course you see it like it's rotating above you, but if you look at the horizon, it will be it's going from north to south depending on which half moon you have. So like if you have it at equator, it's like 90 degrees east, and you can say if going towards the Tropic of Cancer, you can look more north. That will be how you will see it in the practical everyday view. So it's actually in that way you should understand this. Here we have the next full moon coming up, which also you can clearly see it's now in its full summer setting, and the full moon is at the first quarter zone counted away from the Tropic of Capricorn. So now the moon is actually in full summer setting, which will stay in the next couple of months. July and August is also fully summer months for this. And then the change again begins in September and October. Those are fall months where the moon falls back towards the center point, and the full moon phase will return to its position near the Tropic of Cancer, which has in the winter, and in the summer it's, as I clearly with these animations are showing you, that the full moon is in the summer settings near the Tropic of Cancer, and in the winter time it is located near the Tropic of Cancer. Here we have the half moon in the first quarter zone counted away from equator, and again we have a clear sign for something unique. You can watch in the sky and say, oh, the half moon is there, and therefore we have this state of year. So actually it's very unique dance we can see happening for us here. There's no doubt about that in my mind. I hope these animations have given you a clear picture of what is happening in the sky above you and what the moon actually does. Okay, you can see the new moon in the first quarter zone counted away from the Tropic of Cancer, and a clear indication of the moon is now in its summer settings. It's totally reversed compared to the winter settings of the moon. So I hope you have understand these animations, and I will continue the next 6 months with just written comments, and so you can then take a look at how this dance is happening. There's nothing further to add in this section right now. So enjoy the full calendar year if you want to. put on your favorite music and study how the moon behaves with its dance in and out from the Tropic of Cancer to the Tropic of Capricorn. Thank you.